The video that you are about to watch is from a mastermind that I was invited to speak at on all things business credit. We went into how to set up your business in a way that allows you to get access to capital predictably and sustainably, how to get access to the maximum amount of capital and business funding for your business, how to set up multiple funding rounds if you have more than one business structure, and so much more. Now, before we get into it, I do want to preface this is going to be a dense piece of content. So it's going to be one of those videos where you don't just want to watch one time, but you also want to be in a quiet place watching this and actually absorbing the data that I'm giving you, because if you actually apply what we're about to go over in this video, it can make or break you getting approved for something as simple as a $1,000 business credit card or a $100,000 business line of credit. So with that in mind, enjoy the video.
Good deal. So my purpose with this, which is what I told Rad before jumping on this call today, was I want to treat this call, I want to treat this session as if you guys are my highest paying clients, right? And so if you guys hone in for the next 45 minutes to an hour that we have of content, not including the Q&A that we're going to get into, if you guys hone into the information that I'm going to be giving you guys, it's going to 10x your business if you guys take it seriously and if you guys apply the information that I am going to be giving you guys right here on this call. So here is what you are going to gain from today's session with me. We're going to be breaking down strategies and resources to take your business to the next level. I'm going to show you guys the fastest way to build out your business credit profiles. And by the way, this is going to work for any business, but along the way, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some tweaks that you guys can make that'll kind of get you out of the red zone with banks that I see a lot of business owners make. And I want to make sure that you guys are not falling into those traps either. We're going to be showing you how to access funding, whether you're a startup or you're an existing business. I've seen the issue on both sides where I have clients that we have that are 2 days old, that they're having issues with funding. There's a couple of tweaks that we give them and boom, they're off to the races. I'm going to show you guys exactly how we do that on today's call. And then for our existing business owners, I can't tell you how many times I'll have a client that says, Irv, I've been in business for 2 years. I've been in business for 5 years. I have 10 employees. I still can't get a business credit card, a business line of credit, a business loan to save my life. If that's you, I got you covered in today's session. I'm also going to be showing you guys different ways and different methods that you can use to attract funding from banks and lenders. We're going to be breaking down how you guys can access higher limits, not just about getting the cards, not just about getting the lines of credit, the bank loans, but also how can we achieve our goal of accessing more capital, accessing more funding to scale our stores, to scale our companies, to cover payroll, to purchase equipment, whatever that is. I'm also going to be showing you the exact strategy to fund your LLC or corp, however you have it established, multiple times, the fastest way to get access to unsecured business capital, and the best banks and credit unions to go after with some data points, of course, because obviously I don't just want to give you guys this blindly. We are going to be covering some data points along the way. If that sounds good to you guys, let's get something going in the chat. Let's get some fire emojis. Let's get some thumbs up. Let's drop some ones. Whatever it is, I just want to make sure that if this is what you guys signed up to get today, we're delivering it for you. So let's make sure that those chats are fired up. And if a question pops up, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, make sure that you write it down. If I have the answer for it, we're going to deliver on it. Maybe Rad has a different spin on it. We're going to let him maybe take his spin on the question. And if I don't have the answer, guys, I'm not one of those people that's going to tell you, hey, this is the answer. If I don't have it, I'll go back into my lab. I'll get the answer. We'll get it over to the team, and we'll make sure that the team delivers that answer for you. Good? All right. So that was what we're going to cover in the session. But here's my personal goal with today's session. I want to show you guys how you can dramatically improve your business, your personal finances, and how you can increase your business's ability to grow faster by leveraging credit the right way. The key word there in this whole sentence is the right way. So if you have no idea who I am, if this is your first time seeing me, that is I without a hat. My name is Irvin Pena. I'm an entrepreneur, financial educator, and a business consultant. Collectively, we have just over, I believe, 1 million followers on all social media platforms. That's on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. We got started on Pinterest. We've been dropping content. We've been growing our audience over on LinkedIn as well, which has been pretty cool to see. I am the founder of the Inside Inner Circle, which is our coaching program where we show our clients pretty much what I'm going to be showing you guys today. So again, like I told Rad, my whole goal with this is to treat everyone on this call as if you are my highest paying client, because I don't believe in withholding information. I believe that that comes from a place of scarcity, and I believe of just giving all of that away, because flat out, I find more satisfaction in helping people and having someone in my DM tell me, hey, that thing that you broke down on that call that one day, yeah, that actually worked. And this is what happened with my personal finances, or this is what happened with my business. And so I get, just a higher, more of a buzz from that, which I call fulfillment, right? We all name it different things, but that's my goal with tonight's session. So some notable things, just kind of putting this out there. I've worked with T-Mobile on some other content creation side, where we created pieces of content for them to, they had a campaign that they were setting up that they wanted to create some financial literacy videos on TikTok. And so I partnered up with Complex Magazine and with T-Mobile. We pieced that together, and I actually ended up creating 4 pieces of content for them, where we millennials as well as the Gen Z, which is the younger generation, on credit, LLCs, and business credit, which was really cool to see some of the messaging me saying, hey, like, my parents didn't teach me this. And to my answer, hey, my parents didn't teach me this either. I've been featured on Orlando Voyager, South Florida Business Journal, and I was also a credit panelist for a show that was held with Fox Soul. Only reason I say that is because I think it's pretty cool, and I thought that you guys should know. Now, this is not photoshopped. This is my family right here, right? This isn't photoshopped. That who you are seeing is my beautiful wife. That is me with a tuxedo. I was actually planning on wearing that tonight, but it was still in the dry cleaners, so I ended up being a bit more formal for you guys with a snapback and a black tee. But I promise you, the content is going to be just as good for you. All right. Those are my kids, and if you're wondering why are they all the same size, are they photoshopped in there with the beautiful little girl? No, the answer is I have 4 kids, ladies and gentlemen. I went from one child, which is the beautiful little girl that you see, she is now 3, to identical triplet boys. So yeah, this isn't photoshopped. I went from 1 to 4 real quick. So she's 3, and they are turning 4 months in the next 3 days. So if you feel overwhelmed running a business, managing kids, I feel you. I understand 100% where you're coming from. Our goal is to continue to keep pressing, to provide for our families, and to leave a legacy, right? But before the beautiful family, before all of that, a few years back, I learned the importance of credit. Yes, this is me right here. You're wondering what I was doing inside of this 2005 Honda Accord. I had my laptop on me, and what you see on my head is a headset. What you see in my hand is a pen, and what you see on my lap is a laptop, right? The reason why I was in my car, it was because my wife at the time was pregnant with the little girl that you saw that picture. This was about 4 years ago, maybe closer to 5. Yeah, no, 4 years ago. She just turned 3. Closer to 4 years ago, she was pregnant with her. The reason why I was in the car is because I was cold calling. And I was trying to pick up business for my real estate company. We had just moved into a brand new market. So if you guys know anything about market penetration, you want to make sure that you're pretty much acquiring clients and acquiring customers pretty much at all costs necessary. And so the reason why I was in the car was because we were living with family at the time. And I was living with family being her parents, nothing against them, but it was everyone's day off. And it was a 2-bedroom apartment. And I was cold calling, and my wife was sleeping. The living room was like the size of the room that I'm in right now, which is my studio. And so I figured I would start my day at 8 a.m. and I would just start cold calling until I would fill up my my calendar with appointments. And then I would go out and I would meet with these prospective buyers or prospective sellers in real estate to see if they wanted to buy or sell a home. But that day, I just remember taking a picture, and I thought to myself, it's never going to be like this forever. And so I took this picture as a token of one day I'll look back at this and say, man, that was a crappy moment, but it built up everything that I am today. I think all of us have these moments. And one of the reasons why I share it was because also in this moment, I had pretty bad credit because I was riding off of my credit cards, trying to turn a profit on my business, which is why I am a big believer in not just acquiring credit to say that it's cool, and not just saying, hey, I got $150,000 in business funding, $250,000 in business funding to say it's cool. but to actually know what you're going to do with that money when it comes in. And so with me running into that problem, pretty much running my credit into shambles, I wasn't able to get a new car. So I was stuck with the Honda that I had, which wasn't a bad car. I just wanted something a bit more presentable for clients. Couldn't buy a house. I couldn't rent a new place. So I was in the place where I needed a cosigner. I needed someone to kind of help me out because my credit, again, was shot. I was sent to collections. I didn't really understand the credit system, which hence is kind of why we know so much about it now. Sometimes the thing that we're pushed through the most ends up actually being the best teacher. And so oddly enough, what ended up taking place was my business started to turn. And so the number that you see here is not how much debt I had. The number that you see here, which is $55,288.73, was how much I had in my checking account. This was after coming out of debt. This was after paying off everyone that I owed. This was after cleaning my credit or attempting to clean my credit with what I thought at the time. But I was still stuck. So you wonder, how can somebody with $55,000 in their account, which isn't necessarily a lot of money, but have to understand that with somebody that was living with family at the time, felt like it was a lot of money. How were you stuck, Irv? I was stuck because I didn't understand that there were still things on my credit that needed to come off because landlords and property managers were still looking at me like I was still someone that was going to default on the ability to be able to make that rent payment. So I would go to different places, different apartment communities, and I would say, hey, I can give you guys 6 months in advance. I would show them my checking account. I would say, hey, I don't owe anyone anything. Like I've paid everything off. I'm attempting to clean my credit right now, but I was still stuck. And then this is what ended up happening right here. I ended up learning about the language of credit and the secret bank rules. I ended up cleaning my credit. I ended up understanding how business credit works, what banks look at, how to clean my personal credit. We won't touch on anything in terms of like how to clean your personal credit too much in this segment, just because I know that Rad has caught you guys up to speed. So I'm going to fast forward right into what we're going to be talking about today, which is business credit and how all of this comes together. So there's two parts to making more money. The first way is choosing the right investment or the right business vehicle, which I'll leave that up to you guys. And I'll leave that up to this program to kind of give you different insights to what you guys can do to generate more income. And the second way, which kind of ties into the first way, is knowing how to access funding and capital so that you can fuel that business and fuel that investment. For the purpose of today's assignment, I'm only going to focus on the second portion, which is showing you guys how to access funding and capital. So what's business credit and who needs it? Simply put, it's your business's ability to obtain funding, your business's ability to make payments on time. It's your business's ability to stand on its own. So I want you guys to think of it like this. If Jeff Bezos died right now, would your Amazon package get to your house any later? Would it get delayed? Would they wait for his funeral to pass and then deliver your package? And the answer to that is most likely no, right? And the reason for that is because there's already a system that's established that runs independent of him, which is the sole purpose of why some of us get into business to begin with. We want a machine running for us, whether we show up or not. Now, obviously, there's some parts in the business where we still have to show up, especially if maybe you're the brand, especially if you're the representative. But there needs to be things in the back end and guardrails that kind of just are systematized and automated that run without you. And so in the business credit world, this is what this means. This means that if you go to a bank is not just going to look at your personal finances, but the bank is also going to look at your business and the way that your business is set up, and then determine if this is someone, in this case, the business, because it becomes its own entity, is this someone that we deem worthy of doing business with? If you guys are following me so far, I know that I'm moving a little quick. The reason why I'm moving quickly is because I want to try to cover as much ground as possible. So Rad, let me know, unmute yourself. Let me know if I'm moving too fast. Let me know if it's just right for you guys.
If you're a small business owner or real estate investor and you're looking to get access to business capital, both predictably and sustainably, and you're looking to actually put a funding system in place that allows you to do that, that's exactly what we do here at the Inside Inner Circle. We build and install simple funding setups with our clients, and we help them get access to capital in a predictable and sustainable fashion. So if that sounds at all like what you're looking to do in your business, I have it pinned as the first comment where you can fill out the application. If you're pre-qualified for us to speak, you'll go ahead and book that call. We'll dive into your business, where you're at, what you're looking to do, and see how we can help you get there. Book that call down below, pinned as the first comment. Let's continue on with the video.
So we got it. We're good. We're good. We're good. Perfect. So when it comes to business credit, there's 3 benefits that I want you guys to pay attention to. The first one is the obvious, right? Higher credit limits and spending power. Per the SBA, you're going to get 10 to 100 times higher amounts than you would on the consumer side, which is why you'll often hear, how the heck did this person get $500,000 in funding? I'm only getting, let's say, 15. The reason for that is because there's a sequence that they're running that's allowing the business to represent itself versus just the individual. And so that when a bank sees that, why would a bank want to lend an individual $500,000 if the average consumer doesn't need that? But in the business world, $500,000, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what some of these Fortune 500 companies are running for payroll every week. The second reason, it's going to protect your personal finances. What do I mean by that? The worst thing that can happen, and one of the fastest ways to cause a business owner to get audited, is when they start kind of commingling their funds. What that means is you have, let's say, your personal credit cards, but you're using, and I know you guys are there because I've been there before. You have your personal credit cards that you're using to try to scale your business. But now what ends up happening is your credit utilization goes through the roof. You guys know what I mean. You have inventory. You're trying to cover payroll. Done on a vehicle. Maybe you guys are trying to pick up some extra marketing, whatever it is, that starts to blow up your credit utilization. But now what ends up happening is that there's 2 things, ladies and gentlemen. The first thing that this does is it creates a potential barrier of entry for getting an audit with the IR and the S, which are the big boys, right? You get a potential audit from them because they see that you're kind of commingling funds. And it's not necessarily that you were intending to, but what ends up happening is, like, I have to, because I don't have any business credit in order for me to be able to fund my business. And so now they see that commingling. And so they say, okay, let's pull you aside and let's see what's going on. And the second thing that ends up happening, which is what we're really seeing, and something that I've been really trying to nail down inside of my program and warning all of my clients about, especially when there's more talks of recession, whether we go into a deeper recession, whether it's just a pop in and pop out recession, whether we go into a depression, whatever it is, climates start to change in the economic system with banks. Translation, Irv, what does that mean? That means that banks are then going to take a look at consumers, which are most likely the ones that are becoming the most over leveraged, and they start slashing credit limits. So now what's happened is you've essentially taken a pay cut, and you've essentially taken a cut in your business, not because you wanted to, but because your limits are now slashed in half, because you're riding your utilizations too high. And so how do banks protect themselves? They kind of pull back until things kind of clear up again in the climate. It's important. Number 3, tax advantages. This is going to allow you, whether you are a business owner or an investor, and even if you're an aspiring business owner and you're not maybe at the caliber that you want to be, you can also take note of this. You can get bigger tax write-offs, and you can also get tax deductions on the interest on the loans that you use. Remember, the loans that you take are taxed, the interest on the loans that you get are tax deductible, and the loans that you get are also not included as taxable income, but it's used to scale your income. But like anything else, there are some business credit myths that I want to run through really quickly with you. Number 1 is the first myth that we're going to bust is you need to have an LLC or a corporate established for years. This is the misnomer. This is a lie. You do not need to have it established for years. The second thing is personal and business credit are reported the same. Big lie we're going to be breaking down tonight. They are not reported the same. And then the third myth that we're going to be busting today is the way my business is set up doesn't matter. It 100% matters, and it's most likely what's keeping you from getting the lines of credit that you want to get. Now, with this section right here, I know that Rad has covered some of it, but it's going to lay, I want to lay an additional kind of like layer from the foundation that he's already built for you guys. I saw what he laid out for you guys, and it's just absolutely brilliant. And so I kind of want to piggyback off of that. You want to make sure that you set up your business name properly, right? You want to check with either NameCheck, and that's not a typo. That's exactly how you want to spell it out, namecheck.com. and the department and your state's Department of State website. Why do I want to do this, Irv? Well, the last thing that I want to do before I make before I make t-shirts, before I make coffee mugs, before I make a website, I want to make sure that the name that I have is not going to be copyright infringement, and the name that I have isn't trademarked. You can check that as well. And the name that I have isn't already taken by someone in my city or maybe across the country. So as I start to maybe grow my brand and as I start to grow my company, I don't have to come back later and make a name change that's going to maybe affect the way that my customers are able to find me. So that's the first thing that I want you to pay attention to. Pick your business name. The second thing when it comes to setting up our business is we want to set up the business properly. What does this mean? You can do an S corp, you can do an S corp, you can do a C corp, or you can do an LLC, which is considered a disregarded entity. The fourth option that you guys can do is you can do it as a sole prop and then do a DBA. That's fine. Now, a little caveat: if the purpose of you getting business credit is for you to again legally divorce yourself from the business, then I would stick to the LLC, the C corp, and the S corp. I get this asked quite a bit. Irv, can I build business credit and can I get business credit cards just with the sole prop? The answer is yes, and that's going to be for some banks. But if you want to get some of those high juicy limits, LLC, C corp, and S corp is the route that you want to take. Now, pro tip: this is going to allow you to float bigger balances on your credit limits. The reason why I say this is because anytime that you get access to a line of credit, either a line of credit, a loan, or a business credit card, right? We're kind of gonna use that interchangeably tonight. It doesn't report over on the personal side unless default or unless you're behind, I'd say 60 days, depending. Sometimes Bank of America, sometimes American Express. If you're late 60 days or more, they start reporting it. Some banks don't report any missed payments until you're in default. But more often than not, it's not going to report over on the personal side, which again ties into what we just finished mentioning earlier. And that is you're able to carry a balance and you're not having a bank come after you and saying, hey, how about you start paying down some of these cards because your personal utilization is getting rocked and your personal credit score is now coming down. And so we're about to start slashing your limits. That doesn't happen as much in the business side because they understand the logistics of business is to continually use debt and recycle it in order for them to grow their revenue. The next thing that we want to get, which I'm sure Rad has covered with you guys, is your employer ID, also known as your EIN. Think of this, because this gets confusing for some. Think of this kind of like the social security number for your business. And I want you to think of your LLC kind of like the birth certificate for your business. Notice that the birth certificate and notice that the social security card are two totally different, especially for those of us that have kids, are two totally different documents. Our social security number in the personal credit world is like our employer ID. That's what we put on applications in order for us to apply for lines of credit, in order for us to apply for a home, for an auto loan, for a mortgage, whatever it is. Same thing in the business world. When you go to apply for some of these trade accounts, some of these credit cards, you're using your EIN. Over in the business world, we have what's called our LLC, which is kind of like the birth certificate for our business. That's how we created that person, which again, the disregarded entity, the IRS sees it as its own standalone person, right? And so now that we know that, okay, my birth certificate for my business is how my business is established, disregarded entity. And then over on the other side, which is my EIN, that's seen as my social. So now we blend that together and now we're starting to form a business that we can then go out and get funding for. But like anything else, you live somewhere, I live somewhere, Rad has a home. Everyone on this call, even if you're watching from your car, you're eventually going to go home somewhere, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a house, whether it's a condo, whether it's a penthouse, whatever it is, needs to happen the same thing with your business. But an issue that a lot of people make is they end up trying to use a PO box. PO box is a big no-no in the business credit world, and it's going to get you automatically flagged, and it's going to get you flagged, and they're going to put a note on your file that your business is seen as unstable. And so if you have a brick and mortar location, fantastic, go ahead and use that. Now, if maybe you don't, and maybe you're a content creator, and maybe your studio is out of your house, but you're looking to scale your business credit because you're trying to get better equipment. You're trying to bring on some employees for payroll. You're trying to really scale, let's say, your media company, or maybe you just operate from home. Maybe you have a lash business. Maybe you cut hair and you're doing that from your garage. Hey, that's totally fine. You can set up a virtual office. Now, the one thing with the virtual office that I want you to consider, it's not a virtual office like what you're thinking. The virtual office, which is what I have listed on here, it's Regis and Opus are two that I usually recommend to my clients. These are physical locations that you can actually walk into and pick up mail. It has to be a physical location. That's the key word. It has to be a physical location that I can walk in and pick up mail. Some of these offices and virtual offices also include workspaces that you can maybe use. If maybe you're kind of just tired and bored of being home and working from home, you can maybe rent that space out. That works fine. But don't fall victim to getting a virtual office or a PO box that's literally just a virtual location. It needs to have a physical address you can walk into, because banks are going to use that as a data point. And I'll give you guys a little gem here. When you're picking the location, pick a location that you know is going to get a lot of traffic with credit unions and also has a lot of traffic with banks. Why is that, Irv? With banks, especially regional, and especially with credit unions, not so much the big national banks like BOA, but the credit unions that are maybe only 2 or 3 in your city or in your state, some of them have a rule that they're not going to fund anyone outside of a 40-mile radius. And so myself as a savvy business owner, I'm thinking, okay, let me go ahead and open up a virtual office that's maybe a little bit closer to a dense area with a ton of credit unions. So that way I know I can take a weekend and I can go out and introduce myself to all of these credit unions and build that relationship with them, which we're going to get into here in just a second. And I know that Rad nails this point home because he practically built an entire audience talking about data points and relationships. And so if you guys grasp that piece right there, it's going to help you execute way more funding than what you're probably getting right now trying to go after some of these bigger banks. Next, leave the Hotmails, leave the Gmails, leave the AOLs, leave that for yourself. With the banks, with the credit unions, some of them won't even accept your application unless there's an actual email, a work email, a business email that's attached to it. I'll give you guys some example here. Instead of irv@yahoo.com, let's swap that out for maybe support@irv.com or team@irvofficial.com. It gives, again, a little bit more roots to the data points. It, again, helps your business look more established to the banks, to the credit unions. A little hack that you guys can use versus just using maybe just trying to go in and plug all of your information into like the interwebs. You guys can bypass that. Just pay a small fee. Listyourself.net and ex.com. It's essentially what it is. It's a listing syndication website that allows you to plug in your information, and then it just spreads it out all over the web for you. And this is how your business can start ranking on Google. Do you still want to go to Google My Business and manually input some of that information and still work on getting your reviews? 100%. But one of the ways that you can speed that process up is by, again, listyourself.net or ex.com. Business phone line is crucial for a lot of business owners because they think to themselves, okay, Irv, if I get myself a business phone line that's, let's say, a 1-800 number, because I know what you're probably thinking. If I get myself a business phone line that's a 1-800 number, my customers are going to think that I'm too big to take care of them. And you could be right. But here's how I want you to kind of flip the script on maybe that way of thinking. I would only recommend or only suggest for you to get a business phone line. Again, if you're going to use it, right? But you want to have kind of like a mock setup, meaning this is the number that you're going to use on your application versus solely using your cell phone. Remember, there's 2 lines on the applications. You have your business line and then you have your cell line. You're still using your cell phone line in the cell phone section, but in the business line, use a business phone number that you guys can get with freedomvoice.com. I believe it's less than $25 a month to set up, or you guys can also set it up through your virtual office. I know that Opus, which we just finished talking about, offers it with a virtual office setup, or Regis, where you can get maybe a fax number and a business line. Some of them even offer a secretary, which is pretty cool when the bank calls in or when the credit union calls in to verify that the business is what it is, and they say, hey, thanks for calling XYZ Enterprises, how can we help you? That's a data point that they're checking off versus just having the cell phone. Now, you can still have the cell phone set up, but one of the cool things about Freedom Voice and even some of these other business line services out there is you can just forward the call to you. I don't recommend for you to use Google Voice. Again, it looks unstable to a bank because you can just swap out a Google Voice number quickly. And so when you're building out these data points, it's all about the routes that you're setting up, which is what we're doing on this call. Here's a pro tip. If you wanted to, you can switch out the phone lines that you have. If it makes sense for you financially, and if it makes sense for you tax-wise, you can switch out your personal lines and put them under your EIN and essentially convert them into business lines. Again, if that's feasible to you. If it's not, leave it the way that it is and just get yourself a third-party number with Freedom Voice. I know that Verizon reports to both Dun & Bradstreet and to Experian. They're giving out anywhere between $35,000 to about $10,000 starter line of credit that you can use inside of the store. This is to get things like maybe a iPad, maybe a tablet, maybe a company phone. Maybe if you have a couple of employees, you can get them maybe a couple of iPhones or a couple of Samsung Galaxies, whatever it is. Those lines do report. Now, in order for you to get those accounts, you want to make sure that you're speaking to the small business account manager. They're all over the country. If you wanted to walk into a store, you can ask them, hey, do you guys have a small business account manager on staff? I would try to visit a couple locations until you're actually speaking to that person, because if not, you're only speaking to someone. And I don't mean this in a degrading way. I just mean for the purpose of building, you're only speaking to someone that understands to sign you up as a consumer, not as a business owner. And so you always want to make sure that you're speaking to the person that's going to help you get the results that you're looking to achieve. Now that we have the EIN, we have the LLC, we have our website, we now want to walk into a bank because this is how relationships are built, and we want to open up our business bank account. They're going to ask for some simple documents, which you should already have. Your articles of organization, which you should already have when you set up your LLC or your corp. You want to have your EIN, which you should have because you can get for free on irs.gov. And guys, if this is a lot, and if you didn't want to maybe set it up yourself by going through your Department of State's website, you can go on websites like LegalZoom. You can contact a local attorney's office to become the registered agent for you and just set it up. Just pay the fee and delegate it out. There's nothing wrong with not having to do all the work. We do that all the time, where I know that I'm not the best web designer, and I know that I'm not the best when it comes to creating, let's say, funnels for some of our products. And so guess what we do? We delegate that to someone who can do it a lot faster than we can, so that we can focus on what we do best, and that's operate our business. Pro tip on this: relationships are the secret weapon when it comes to getting higher funding. I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but I really want you guys to get this part. Relationships are a secret weapon when it comes to getting higher funding. Regional banks and credit unions tend to favor startups and small business owners the most. Now that we're going to segue into the main players, this is where things start to get a little bit interesting, and this is where I really want you to kind of hold on to your seat, because I'm going to be giving you guys kind of like behind the scenes in the business credit world and what's happening in the space that a lot of people don't talk about, and they think that it's just build a good credit score. Make sure that your personal credit is at least a 680. Make sure that you have your LLC, your EIN. We just finished breaking that down. But let's now go a little bit deeper into this. And before I do, let me know, how am I doing so far? Like, are you guys enjoying the content? Is it a lot? Is it not enough? Is it one of those things where it's like, dude, come on, Earth. Like, this is exactly what, Rad, like we've seen this stuff before. Like, give us something new. Like, and be honest with me, it's not gonna hurt my feelings. Good deal. So we're seeing it. You're preaching. Great, good, great, perfect. Guys, let's keep it going. So the main players is going to be Dun & Bradstreet, which is the biggest business credit bureau here in the United States. Experian Commercial, Equifax Business, and I have Small Business Financial Exchange, but it's a trick. Small Business Financial Exchange is not actually a business credit bureau. The Small Business Financial Exchange is a reporting agency. So if you guys have an American Express business credit card. You probably noticed that it does not report on any of the business credit bureaus, right? And if it does, cool, but most likely it's not reporting. And one of the reasons why is because the data is being furnished over to the Small Business Financial Exchange. Now, if you're wondering what's the purpose of the Small Business Financial Exchange, or why are you bringing them up? The Small Business Financial Exchange is who furnishes the data for Dun & Bradstreet, and they also furnish data for Equifax Business. Going deeper with that, the Small Business Financial Exchange is also where the SBA is going to take a look at for some of the loans that they go out and they distribute. So the SBA is essentially going to look at, I'd say, 3 data points. They're going to take a look at the Small Business Financial Exchange to make sure that all of your business credentials are lined up, to make sure that the addresses match up, to make sure there's no UCC filings, all of that. They're then going to take a look at Experian on the personal side, and they're also going to take a look at Experian on the business side. So on the personal and on the business side, taking that a step further, for those of us that got PPP loans, some people were reporting, hey, there is a hard inquiry on my Experian personal side. Why is that? Well, SBA, which is a Section 7A loan distributed by, or the PPP loan distributed by the SBA, they needed something to, again, personally guarantee it. And so what they did was they checked maybe your Equifax, the Small Business Financial Exchange. They checked your Experian business. If maybe you didn't have it there because you were a newer business, they went ahead and just looked at your Experian on the personal side. And that's why some of you guys, for those of us that did take PPP loans, if you did it, then this is maybe like new to you. That's why you saw a hard pull on your credit. So when it comes to DMB, your DUNS number, again, this is what we want to use to start building out our business credit profiles. And so you want to have at least 5 accounts reporting on your Dun & Bradstreet accounts in order for you to generate an 80 PAYDEX score, right? And so what a lot of people end up doing, and where they drop the ball, is they have maybe 2 accounts that they think are reporting but aren't really reporting, and then they're kind of working with vendors, which we're going to get into here in just a second. They think that they're kind of working with vendors that are reporting trade lines, but they're not really reporting trade lines over on the business side. And what they end up doing is they just end up using the card, or they stop using the card, or they stop using the vendor, and then the vendor says, okay, let's not even report. So if you're taking notes, you want to use either the card or the vendor account or the supplier that you guys are using. You want to use them for at least 60 to 90 days. Some of them are going to start reporting by day 60. Some of them are going to start reporting by day 90. I tell all of my clients, if you don't have at least an 80 PAYDEX score by day 90, you must have missed a step. And so if for those of you guys that have been in business for some time, I'm going to help you out. I get a lot of clients that they come in and they say, Irv, I've been in business for 10 years. I've been in business for 15 years. I've never heard of PAYDEX, or I have nothing reporting on my PAYDEX. Let me help you out. You can go over to dnb.com, which is where you get your DUNS number. By law, these vendors, if they are extending out a term to you, a net 30, net 45, net 55, net 15, whatever it is, and there's no number reported or generated, that's automatically going to generate a DUNS number for you. So if you go in and you create an account and you type in your business name, odds are your business is going to show up. Some of you guys probably have some form of business credit built out and you don't even know it yet, because vendors actually have been reporting. You just haven't claimed your account yet. That's going to help out somebody on this call, because I had like 6 clients last week that they all had 80 PAYDEX scores because they were already reporting. They just hadn't claimed their account yet. So they already had business credit. They just hadn't lined it up with their LLC and they hadn't taken ownership of it. I want to take it a step further, because maybe if you're newer, or maybe if you're going over to Dun & Bradstreet, they're going to tell you and they're going to try to sell you crazy expensive packages that they're going to say, hey, we're going to report trade lines for you. Steer away from that. You're going to learn how to build trade lines on this call from scratch that belong to you, meaning no one can take it away from you once it's on your report. What they're really reporting is trade references. Trade references is the payment history of the account, but it's not an actual line of credit or vendor credit that's attached to the account. So it doesn't necessarily carry the same weight as you building out your own trade lines, but yet they're charging you thousands of dollars for that. Oh, and by the way, the minute that you stop paying that, they remove those trade references to begin with. And for those of us, before I move on, for those of us that are business owners, the first thing that I want you guys to do when you get off this call, be sure, go to dnb.com, search your business. I promise you somebody on this call, and if it's you, hit up Brad and let them know, hey, that thing worked. Hey, I had a business credit profile established. I just had to claim it. I had to send in my LLC, my articles of organization. I had to take a picture of my license. Whatever it is that they ask you for, claim it because it's yours. The second thing that I want you to do, if you're an existing business owner, and if you've been doing business with some vendors, whether it's suppliers, whether it's equipment financing, whatever it is, you want to reach out to those store owners. You want to reach out to those vendors, and you want to let them know, hey, we've been doing business for some time. I've never missed a payment. I've always paid you on the time, the net 30, the net 45, the net 60, whatever it is. I want to see if you can report this for me. Some of them aren't going to report it, right? They're only going to report the reference at absolute best. Remember, they have to at least report the reference. If you want the trade line, say, hey, can you extend a line of credit trade line that's actually going to report for me? On their end, they may need to fill out some paperwork with Dun & Bradstreet, Equifax, and Experian, but let them know, I want to continue doing business with you, or I may be in the place where I may take my business elsewhere. So at least you kind of had that as leverage. Cool? I hope you guys picked that up. So when it comes to vendor accounts and financial accounts, you want to have both on your business credit profiles. Pro tip, and by the way, vendor accounts, for those of us that don't know, let me not move past that. Vendor accounts, for those of us that are wondering what that is, those are things like net 30s, net 45, net 30 days. If we're using the example of a net 30 account, we have 30 days from the day that we're invoiced in order for us to make that payment, right? So in the business credit world, there's something called days beyond terms, DBT, days beyond terms, which is really what's being used against you if maybe you're late by 1 day. So now they start counting late by 1 day, late by 2 days, late by 3 days, late by 4 days, and that's what starts to plummet your score. So if there's anything that you take from this call, the simplest way that you can boost your business credit is just pay that thing off in full. It has to be paid off in full if you want the full benefits of building out your Dun & Bradstreet score, because vendor accounts are going to report over with Dun & Bradstreet. Some of them report with Equifax and Experian, which we'll get to them here in a second. But I want you guys to know, when it comes to building business credit, start with making those payments on time. It sounds elementary, it sounds simple, but like, I can't tell you how many times somebody wants a hack for building something out, and it's like, just pay it on time. I promise you that's going to be better than any hack you'll ever get. Just be responsible with your business, whether you're running your books yourself or you have an accountant. The other accounts that you want to have are financial accounts. So that can be fintech cards like Capital on Tap, Divvy. That can be business credit cards, unsecured business credit cards, or even secured or unsecured loans, which we're going to also be breaking down. You want to have that reporting onto your business credit. Also, pro tip, each account reported is known as a payment experience. And so one of the fastest ways that we like to build out our business credit profiles with our clients is that we tell them, make sure that when you are building out your business credit profile, you're getting strategic with who you decide to shop with and who you decide to pick as a vendor or as a supplier for you. What that means is, if I had to pick between a supplier that's only going to, let's say, report to Dun & Bradstreet versus someone who's going to report to Dun & Bradstreet, Experian, and Equifax Business, I'd rather you go with the latter. Reason for that is because I'm going to have now 3 payment experiences laid out across the board with all 3 business credit bureaus, and that's going to help me out way more than just having a score with Dun & Bradstreet, which is what most business owners have because it's the easiest one to get, right? So if you can get someone with Experian and Equifax, then by all means, take that. And I'm also going to be showing you guys some different accounts that you guys can tap into, but you want to make sure that you're building it out across the board. So for those of us that are taking notes, for those of us that are on the recording, for those of us that are on the live call, take a screenshot of this, take a picture, take a mental photo, whatever it is. These are some of the accounts that you can quickly move into to build up an 80 PAYDEX score, to build up at least an 80 on the Intella score, which is Experian, and to build up, I'd say, at least you want at least a 400, maybe a 420 over with Equifax, because Equifax range, one of their scores ranges from 224 to 580, right? And so the way that you want to set this up is up top, I have Uline, Summa, and Granger office supplies. I listed those up top because it's the one that you guys are most likely familiar with. It's the one that everyone talks about, and rightfully so. They've been out for quite some time and they still report. But one of the things that you want to note is that in order for you to get these tray lines to actually report to your credit, it has to be something that they deem, worthy. So you want to make sure that you're spending at least $100 with them in order for them to actually report it on the back end. This is known as the tier system. I'm going to give you guys the PG and the non-PG way. But with the tier system, what you can do is you can essentially make purchases. So that's batteries, office supplies, toiletries, whatever it is. Just make sure it's at least $100. And then you want to make that payment within the terms that they give you. More often than not, it's going to be a net 30 account. Now, here's where things get interesting, because with Crown Office Supplies reports to multiple accounts. And so this is one of those things that if I had to pick, let's say, between a Crown Office Supply or a Granger, you may want to have both, but I definitely want to make sure that I have a Crown Office Supply on there, because it's also going to build up my other business credit profiles. eCredible, for those of you guys that don't know, it's a powerful tool. If you already have a brick and mortar location, and if you maybe have utilities placed under your business name, they're able to report that over those payments over to the big three, which is Experian, Equifax, and Dun & Bradstreet. And there's a fourth one, Credit Safe. Credit Safe isn't necessarily as big here in the United States as they're becoming. They've been out since '97. They're bigger overseas. If you're wondering who uses Credit Safe is used by BMW, Volvo, Nestle, more so the European companies. That may be a bigger player moving down the road, but for the purpose of this call, just focus on Experian, Equifax, and Dun & Bradstreet, because you'll still be able to get the cars non-PG. You'll still be able to get some of the corporate credit that you guys are wanting to get access to. When it comes to checking your business credit, we have it on there. NAV. You can have a free account with NAV, but I recommend, if you want to have tray lines reporting onto your business credit profile, they report them across the board. You want to have, I believe it's their Business Plus account. It's like $39. It's subscription, and they go ahead and report that account. It's just a fast way to build your account. So if you guys wanted kind of like my take on this, and if you guys wanted like a little strategy, I would do Crown Office Supplies, eCredible, NAV, and Uline. There's four right there, right? Remember, they're reporting across the board. So now we're essentially building out our business credit across the board. And then I would go ahead and maybe pick a Sam's Club card. One of the reasons why I would pick a Sam's Club card is because a Sam's Club card, the only thing that you have to be is a member with Sam's Club, but it's non-PG, meaning it's going to be EIN only. And by the way, it's not just EIN, but it's also a MasterCard, which means you can use it anywhere a MasterCard is accepted. So it's as good as a traditional credit card. So it's not like some of these other accounts where you can only use that line of credit, those terms there. With Sam's Club, you can come out of Sam's Club if you have that MasterCard, and you can go ahead and make purchases that you maybe need for your business that you can't find at Sam's Club. Now, the trick with getting approved for Sam's Club is you want to go in person. That's the first thing. Obviously, you want to be a member. So become the member. You want to go in person. And then the third thing is you don't want to put your social on the application, because they will hard pull you. I'll tell you right now, like don't message Rad and his team saying, hey, they hard pulled my credit. If they did, you guys, it's most likely because you use your social. Like that's the only way that they're going to hard pull your credit. And so when you get there, you're going to fill out the application, and you're only going to put your EIN where it has your company EIN. I'm not telling you to put your EIN where your social goes and vice versa. No, put your EIN where your EIN goes and leave your social blank. If they ask you, what's your social security number? I will tell them what I tell them. I don't really know my social off the top of my head. And I actually don't, right? I always take my social if I'm doing something important, maybe legal paperwork, legal documents, whatever it is. Other than that, I have no idea what my social is off the top of my head. And then lastly, a little key that you guys can use to also build relationships within the tier system is through Quill, and know who some of the brother companies are. sister companies and parent companies. So I'll give you one here as a quick example. Staples owns Quill. And so if I use Quill, which again is another office supply store like Uline, Suma, and Granger, and I'm kind of placing my bets on who I want to a relationship with. Me personally, my tier 2 account, once I want to get maybe a Staples business card that I can use with them, they're going to see that relationship has already been built with one of their with one of their companies in-house. So that's something that you guys want to be mindful of. This is just some of the stuff that we talk about inside of the group. This is pretty much some of the results that we get, which is pretty cool to see. And this is really what I expect for you guys to get out of this call, whether you have to listen to it 1 time, 2 times, 10 times, whether you have to fast forward to your favorite part or whether you have to slow it down. But I do want you guys to get results. Now, there's 2 ways to fund your business. And before I move to this section, we're now going to start talking about funding, both PG and non-PG methods. I want to give it to you guys all, right? All stuff and no fluff, like my guy says. Let me know how I'm doing in the chat. Drop a 1. Drop a 1 if we're ready to stop. Drop a 2 if it's like, keep it going. Like the kids are in bed. Like my wife is the champ right now. My wife is taking care of the triplets, is taking care of our little girl. Like, yeah. So she is the absolute MVP right now. But if you guys are willing to go, I'm willing to go too. We got all the 2s. We got all the 2s. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, good deal. Let's get right to it. So there's 2 ways to fund your business. I went ahead and merged these 2 together. Really could have been 3 ways, but I merged them together because they kind of run parallel with each other. BLOCs and loans. BLOCs meaning business lines of credit. This means that you can use these lines of credit like revolving cash. What does that mean, Irv? That means that if I needed to go into a revolving line of credit, I can have some of that money sent over into my business checking account and I can withdraw from it, right? Now, obviously, you guys want to be mindful of the rates. Obviously, you guys want to be mindful of the terms, but that's in essence, that's what a BLOC is. It's revolving and it continues to grow over time. A loan, on the other hand, oh, and by the way, you can use it for things like payroll, supplies, working capital, equipment financing, the whole 9 yards. So for those of you guys that are maybe into trucking and you're trying to, maybe pick up some new equipment, or if maybe you guys are trying to maybe cover some payroll for the next, let's say 60 days or for the next quarter, you guys can tap into some of those lines of credit, or even for e-com. But for e-com, I have something special for you guys, right? Even though this isn't an e-com call, but I'm pretty familiar with the space as well. Next, we have business loans. Now, business loans is one of the best ways that you guys can get big lump sum of money for your existing business, but some of them are a little tougher to get because they require things like proof of income tax returns, P&Ls, which are profit and loss statements, and established business credit. But I'm going to give you kind of like the workaround with both of these. Unsecured business credit is one of the fastest ways, if not the fastest way, that you guys can tap into other people's money. OPM usually goes from 0% interest, which is from 6 to 20 months. Some programs out there go as far as 24 months. I know that Rad has absolutely gone crazy with you guys on unsecured business credit cards, both on the side and on the business side. Now, for this, unless it's a fintech company, you may have to personally guarantee, I'd say 98%, if not 99% of the business credit cards, with the exception of a company that's doing well over $2 to $5 million is usually what they like to look at. So I just want you to brace yourself that 9 times out of 10, I'm going to have to personally guarantee a business credit card, right? I'm going to have to personally guarantee this stuff, especially when I am starting out. And so there's 2 types of credit cards that you want to pay attention to. Number 1 is a revolving credit card, which means it's kind of like a, if you guys are familiar with Chase, it's like a Chase Business Inc. It's a revolving, that's a revolving credit card, which means you can carry a balance with them. And so let's say if you used $5,000 on a card, you would only maybe have to pay the minimum of whatever that balance is. Right? You can carry the balance on it. As long as you're making the minimum payment, they'll allow you to carry it. Charge cards, on the other hand, are a bit more useful if you have things like e-com, if you have marketing, and if you have trucking But I'm going to put a disclaimer on that. I'm going to put a disclaimer on that because remember, I don't just want you guys to run reckless with the tools that we're giving you. If it's something that you are already that the groundwork has already been laid out, meaning I already know what my return on ad spend is. I already know if I put out, let's say, 15 signs, if I put out 100 flyers, I'm going to get X amount back in new business and revenue. Or if I'm running, let's say, e-commerce, if I put 5,000 into my store or into my retail shop, we're going to get, let's say, $7,500 back. So now we're running $2,500 profit, right? So I only want you guys to think about using a charge card if it is a business or if it is a business model that's already predictable. Because if not, this is important, if not, the entire balance on that charge card will be due in either a 30-day period or a 60-day period. Fintechs, I could have added fintechs with charge cards because a lot of them run kind of like the same. So if you are maybe looking at a Divvy card, while Divvy can give you up to $400,000 in business credit, non-PG, it is a charge card. And so for those of us that are maybe into American Express, the gold, the plum, the green, that doesn't necessarily have a preset spending limit, which means if, let's say, you go out tomorrow and you built up your business in a way where you can swipe $25,000, $35,000, while it doesn't have a limit, it's approved. Guess who has to make that $25,000, $35,000 payment next month? That's right, you, the business owner. So unless you know for a fact that your business is pumping at that level, I would steer clear of charge cards, or at least scale them in a way that you can actually stomach making the full payment. So I want you to look at charge cards kind of like a net payment. Again, the full payment is going to it needs to be made in order for that to actually work for you. So moving on from that, I had to slow it down there because I know that a lot of people get excited and they say, oh, no spending limit, let me go out and let me start applying. So it's kind of like handing a loaded gun to somebody, right? So I want to be very mindful of this. We want to be very cautious of some of the debt that we're using to leverage. So here's how we're going to access high rounds of funding and increase our approvals. This is going to be based off of your personal credit, right? This is going to be based off of your personal credit, but I'm also going to throw in for you guys some business data points as well, because it's going to help. Apart from just having your personal credit intact, you also want to make sure that you have your business credit intact and how you guys can attract some funding your way. You want to have at least a 680 credit score. Right? I'm almost positive that Rad has covered this because I've definitely seen him cover this in other instances. You want to have at least $2,000 in credit limits. You want to have at least 3 or more bank accounts. You want to have history at least 3 years or older. Now, this isn't necessarily going to guarantee that you get the funding that you're looking for, but this is at least going to allow the bank to consider you. So I want you guys to see this as the bare bones lowest level of entry, right? If you can check all of these off, then you're at least going in the right track, essentially. Your history is at least 3 years old, so that's your credit age. Utilization at 25%. If you're going to run a funding sequence and it's going to require you to personally guarantee it, make sure that your personal utilization is under 10%. I would prefer for it to be closer to 1%, but no more than 10% if you're looking to max out the amount that you get. No charge-offs, no collections, less than increase in the last 6 months, and then no late payments in the last 24. Now, Irv, what if I don't meet these requirements? What if I have partners? Well, the good thing is that as long as your partner is on your operating agreements, they are able to apply on your business's behalf, right? And so maybe if your partner, maybe you guys are a husband, wife, maybe you guys are spouse, maybe you guys are siblings, you guys are running a business together, or maybe you guys are friends or business partners, and they are rocking the stellar credit. If it meant keeping the business open, this is important. If it meant keeping the business open and having a personal guarantee, if you guys ask me, and this is just my personal opinion, if you guys ask me, I will take the personally guarantee. Now, if you're thinking, is that going to pierce the corporate veil? The answer is no. Just because I am personally guaranteeing something, which means we are co-signing, keyword, we are co-signing on behalf of the business, because maybe the Equifax business score isn't established yet. Maybe our bank rating isn't necessarily there yet because we're not pumping enough cash flow just yet. Remember, these lines of credit, these cards, they go off of stated income, right? You never want to lie on accounts. You never want to lie on applications. But if it's going to go off of your income, then that means that, let's say if you have $70,000 that you put on your application and you don't have to show your tax returns and you don't have to show your bank statements, that's going to be a lower barrier of entry for you to get approved for these lines of credit, especially if your business partner is carrying the credit, the proper credit on their side. But remember, never lie on an application, because I can't tell you how many people get popped when they ask them for either a back-end review, which happens quite a bit, especially if you plan on doing business with a bank long-term. I'd rather you guys come in and get $15,000, $20,000 on a unsecured business credit card than trying to shoot for 55, 60 just because you wanted a quick cash injection, but you burned the relationship on the back end, because now when they underwrite you and they say, hey, by the way, how's your business doing? You know, you guys did 70K last year. You said you were on pace for 140. So let's see your tax returns. Oh, and by the way, we only put 10K on there on our tax returns. You now essentially are going to kind of shut yourself off from that bank. It's a good point to keep in mind, especially as we're scaling these accounts. Now, what banks will look at, and there's a big difference between your FICO and your Vantage score. Your Vantage score is what you are most likely seen on a Credit Karma app. That's good for simple checks like what we just mentioned. Hey, where's my utilization? Hey, is there anything negative reporting on my account? Hey, you know, what accounts are reporting on my personal credit? Things like that. But it's not the score that the banks are going to look at. Banks are going to look at a FICO 8 score, and they're also going to look at Experian. That's what they're going to look at when you're personally guaranteeing some of your accounts, right? Now, before applying for either business, doing a funding sequence, or even personal funding, always recommend for all of my clients, guys, make sure that you know what your FICO 8 is, make sure you know what your Experian is before you guys go out and apply. And this is coming directly from American Express Intel. FICO 8 is currently the most popular of many FICO scoring model versions used to size up the borrower's risk. And so if this is where American Express and some of these big banks are playing at, I want to know, what are you guys looking at so that I can perfect that? How often are you guys looking at it, and how do you guys want it to look? And you guys are seeing it right here. It's a FICO 8. UCC filing. This is a data point that often goes under the radar, what I call the invisible hand. This is the invisible hand. Many lenders and creditors are not going to they're placing it on your file. In fact, if you took out a PPP loan, odds are you most likely have, or had, especially if you haven't paid it off or gotten it forgiven, you have some form of UCC filing placed on your business record. Irv, what's a UCC filing? Why is this important? Why does this matter? UCC stands for Uniform Commercial Code. They've essentially placed a lien on your property. And so what ends up happening, especially with SBA loans, they place blanket liens, UCC filings, which means that they can come in and freeze some of your assets and take garnishment of, maybe if you have a vehicle in your business, maybe if you have bank accounts, they can go in and freeze them and take the amount that's owed. Now, obviously, that's going into deeper water. But the reason why I say this is because sometimes you're wondering, why am I not getting approved for this business line of credit? Or why isn't my business credit moving? Or how the heck did I get denied for this? There could be a chance, which is why I'm showing you this, that there is a UCC filing placed on your business credit profile and on your business and on your business's file. So whether it's an LLC or corp, one of the ways that you can check that is you can go right on your state Department of State's website. So the Secretary of State, look up where it says, and every website is different, but I'll give you like the gist of it, where it says UCC filings, and then just look up your company. Now, obviously, if you have the credit signal, which is like the upgraded version of, it's like the $35 plan with Dun & Bradstreet, they'll tell you, hey, there's a filing placed on you. So you'll get that there. But if you want the free version, just do the one that I just gave you. Go directly on your Secretary of State's website and just look your business up. Now, when it comes to removing it, you want to get it removed if you've paid it off. What ends up happening is, especially with vendors, if you go out, more mom and pop vendors, You go out and maybe you got a line of credit with them or a vendor account with them. They probably placed it on your, which is normal, right? They placed it on your business and maybe they just flat out forgot to remove it. So one of the fastest ways that you can get that removed is you can file a UCC3 form. You file a UCC3 form with them, or before you get to that place, you can just flat out call them and ask them, hey, I've been trying to get some funding. I've been trying to grow my business, but I see here that there's a UCC filing placed on my business, on my company from you guys. Would you mind removing it? You'd be surprised, guys. A lot of them say, oh, I had no idea. Yeah, let me go remove it for you. And then, of course, if you took PPP loans, make sure to keep an eye on that as well, especially if you've already filled out the forgiveness portion. Now, there's 3 types of loans. We got the full doc loans, which is where the misconception comes in from with a lot of people, where they say, oh, you need to be in business for 3 years in order for you to get approved for vehicles and cars and business bank loans. And there's some truth to that, but they're spinning it. And I think it's because of lack of information. They're referring to full doc loans. Now, the thing with full doc loans is these are the big boy loans. These are the big girl loans where you can get up to $1 million, $2, $3 million plus, right? But for stuff like this, they do want to see 2 years of tax returns. They do want to see your bank statements. They do want to see your W-2s. They do want to see pay stubs you've been paying out. They do want to see profit and loss statements, all of the paperwork, right? And so if you're on this call, this may not necessarily be the best option for us. So let's move into the next tier. We have partial to low doc loans. Now we start getting a bit more flexible, right? 1 year tax returns. I'm sure a couple of us have been in business for at least a year. If you have, and if you've been keeping some really good bookkeeping, then odds are this may be a better look for you. Bank statements, W-2, pay stubs. Now they may ask for a profit and loss statement because now we're starting to get a bit more partial and low doc loans. But we can maybe do a little bit better than this, especially if we are brand spanking new. And by brand spanking new, I mean less than a year, right? If we're brand spanking new, maybe we can do a little bit better. That is going to be no doc loans. Now, no doc loans allows you to go off of stated income, which is what you're putting on applications. Remember, don't lie. Actually put the stated income, right? You can use your personal income and your business income because it's going to ask for both on the application. Some of them put projected revenue. So you want to make sure that you watch the wording on some of their applications. Now, for those of us that are maybe filling out no doc loans with a projected revenue on it, and maybe you're a newer business, you have no tax returns, you have nothing to show for your business of income that's actually coming in, right? What you can do for projected revenue is you can see and take a look at, okay, I'm in the lawn care business. And so I'm going to do my homework as a business owner. What does the average lawn care business owner make within the first, from year 1 to year 3, right? For my demographic, for my zip code, for my area. Because what a lawn service makes in the middle of Orange County is totally different from what a lawn care service makes in the middle of Mississippi. And so you want to make sure that it makes sense to the bank, because they're also going to take a look at where your business is located due to the, again, zip code of where your brick and mortar or where your virtual office is. Now you guys can see how all this starts tying in, right? I'm showing you guys how to think like what the bank is looking for, so that way it facilitates the process. So when you go in and you start asking them for money and we start asking them to pretty much start a relationship with you, they actually want to start a relationship with you. And so I'm going to take a look at, okay, this is the average more so for the projected revenue in this side of town. So I may want to, I'm projecting, I may make $85,000, right? If it's between 65 to 110, you may want to put yourself in the middle, but I'm definitely not going to use Orange County numbers, right? Remember, we're only doing this for projected revenue because these are projections. We're not doing this for stated income. Stated income has to be what you're actually making. Now, they are going to personally guarantee, which is essentially what's going to help you get this loan. Because remember, no doc loans are more for starter businesses. The most that they lend up to is up to $100,000. Once you pass that $100,000 threshold, you now start going into partial docs, and then once you move beyond that 500 to $1 million, that's when you start going into full doc programs, right? Now, the cool thing about this, it's not going to require you any bank statements, W-2s, or tax documents. Again, this is, in my opinion, the best option if you're looking to take the loan route when it comes to getting business funding, again, through the no doc loan route. But Make sure that your business credit is with the data points that we just gave you. And then you can always set up the relationship with them and then go back and potentially, obviously, get approved for this type of funding, this type of product. Now, this is what I call the high approval secret weapon. This is what the banks don't tell you. This is what I'm gonna tell you. This is what's really going to help you catapult not just the amount of funding that you get, but also the relationship of what they want to see on your application, because you're going to get it directly from the source. Here's what I mean. So you want to obviously have relationships, and you want to make your file you want to create fundability, right? You want to be fundable, right? So apart from having our business set up correctly, the right name, the right address, the right articles of organization, that's what AOG stands for. Your SIC codes, you want to make sure that they're at low risk. Your NAICS codes, you want to make sure that they're at low risk. I'm sure that Rad has covered that. If he hasn't, I'll give you an example. Because I had this with the client, he was having a really hard time getting approved because he runs a trucking company. But we're not going to say that, oh, just switch it over to something that you don't do just because it's going to be low risk. No. So you want to be strategic. And so you think, okay, according to the NAICS codes that I have, that I can use legally, what's something that's maybe seen as a lower risk? So we figured out logistics, which is still in line. We're still being ethical. Logistics is still in line with trucking. So the minute that he switched it over to logistics, you got the new NAICS code, boom, the gates opened up for him just off that small tweak. For those of us that are in real estate developers, real estate investors, that is one of the highest, the highest risk codes that you can think of is going to be real estate developers, real estate land developers, and investors. I believe there's about 32, maybe 33 different codes inside of the real estate NAICS code bracket. And so one thing that we also did with another client is that we said, hey, instead of putting on the application that you're a real estate developer, because that was the code that you were getting, and that's a business that is just runs rampant when it comes to defaults, why don't you put it as real estate management? Because you do run a management service, don't you? Yes, I do. You also happen to have some properties that he was renting out. So again, switching that over to real estate management, boom, the low risk came down. Now we start seeing the floodgates open up with real estate funding. Business checking accounts, which is going to help you build up your bank trust and your bank rating. If you guys have no idea what the bank rating is, you're going to get a score from a 3 to a 5. I would like to see you guys in the low 5 range. Low 5 means that you have at least $10,000 in your business checking account, right? And then you want to make sure that that doesn't fall into a negative, and that doesn't fall below $5,000 in a 90-day period, because that's going to generate on the internal side, especially for those of us, again, going back to Rad, because I know what he gives you guys. Going back, this is similar to the 91.3 rule that happens with Navy Federal, where you guys are using some of these pledge loans to, again, kind of hedge your way into building that relationship. We're just doing it on the business side. And then the biggest piece, well, it's all important, but the biggest piece that I would say that a lot of people kind of just run right past, they have no idea about, is relationship managers. Relationship managers is the gateway, the key, the holy grail to you getting access to a higher limit, and to you knowing why they may not want to do business with you at this time, right? So I always tell our clients, when you walk in to a credit union, to a local bank, ask them, hey, is your relationship manager here? I like to speak to your relationship manager. The key to this is let them know that you're going to be making a handsome deposit that day. That's your script. Yes, why would you like to speak to our relationship manager? Well, I'm actually going to make a deposit. I want to open up. I have a business that I'm running, and I want to open up an account with you guys. I'm going to be making, I'll give you an example, right? I'm going to be making a $35,000 deposit into my business checking account. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to see you a little bit differently from someone that's just coming in, opening up a regular mom and pop college account, right? Because they're saying, wait a minute, this person's actually putting funds into this account on the business side, this is going to work far better than doing this with maybe a Bank of America or doing this with a Chase or doing this even a Wells Fargo, right? The reason for that is because Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, even though those are tier A banks, those are tier one banks, they're used to working with whales. They're used to working with hedge funds. And so $35,000 to them, it's like, yeah, that doesn't even cover our payroll for the week. You know what I mean? But to a credit union or to a regional bank specific in your area, to them, it's like, this is good. This is exactly the type of clientele that we want in here. Yes, how can we help you? And so the relationship manager is going to help underwrite some of your files. They're going to manually help you see what the underwriters want to look for. If you are denied, you already had that relationship. Hey, why was I denied? What happened? What do they want to see? Well, hey, Irv, you've only been banking with us for like 2 months. They really wanted to see at least 3 months in before you applied for any lines of credit with us. You think you could hold off maybe 60 days, whatever their guidelines are, right? An extra 60 days before you apply again? Oh, 100%. Do you want me to keep making deposits into this account? 100%. Absolutely. That relationship speaks further than you just being a number to some of these banks. I hope you guys caught that, because that's going to that piece right there that I just gave you is what a lot of people hold close to their chest from funding companies that are going to charge you an arm and a leg to some of these other companies that they just don't want to give up that information. I just gave it to you guys because I hope that it brings value to this community. And I know what Rad is pouring into you guys. And so if you guys can run with like these last couple pieces, it's going to just completely catapult your business. How would I prioritize the banks that I go to? And this is exactly what I told my clients 2 weeks ago. The banks that I would go to would be those that I've already built a relationship with. So those will be the most effective. So if maybe you already have a personal credit card, you've been a bank with maybe PNC, or maybe you've been a customer with Regis for 2-3 years. This is why I never knock anyone for saying, well, let me at least start off with a personal card. And I still recommend get yourself a personal card, because that could be the bridge for future funding for your business 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, or even 90 days down the line, right? Getting into their ecosystem, especially with American Express and Navy Federal. So you want to start off first with the banks you have a relationship with. Next, I would recommend you want to use banks that issue out their own cards, preferably 0% business cards and no doc loan products, or low doc loan products if you already have at least a year or two of tax returns, and you can actually show that, hey, my business is profitable. Like, we're pumping some pretty good cash flow. We just need some help in terms of funding. And so that's what I would take a look at. Banks that issue their own cards. Number 3 is going to be banks with business credit pre-approval offerings that they send you. So if maybe you got an email, or maybe if you got a letter saying, hey, we want to extend this offer to you. American Express does this quite a bit. Chase does this quite a bit. We want to extend this 100,000 point offer to you at 0% interest for 12 months, for 15 months, whatever it is. Go ahead and just insert this code. That's going to be dramatically higher than you just trying to approve just by walking in to a bank and not having any of these steps in place. And then the fourth one that I would recommend for you guys to use, if you guys are prioritizing which banks to go after, it's the one with the most liquidity in the business account. What does that mean? That means if I have my main business account, I have 2 or 3 other, small business accounts that I'm nurturing my relationship with, but I have my main business account that's, we're bringing in 30,000 a month, 50,000 a month, 100,000 a month, 250 a month, like whatever your goal is. The one that's driving in the most liquidity, that one probably is the most seasoned, right? And so that's the one that I would also consider taking a look at, but I would maybe leave them at the bottom, because the one that you have the most relationship with may not necessarily be the one that you're running the most liquidity through. Okay. So these are some spotlights that we have with some of our clients right here. This is Alan. Alan actually was, I think he joined the inner circle. Let me see. I want to say April, I believe April of this year. So he actually shot me a message on Instagram, which is pretty cool to see, but he also explained to us what happened and how he was able to secure $100,000 in a business line of credit. So if you guys are wondering, I have it scratched out here, but this was through PNC Bank. So I asked him on the call, what were the data points that I'm going to share with you guys? He had been banking with PNC for, I believe, 4 years on the personal side. And then once he joined the program, or even before joining the program, I think he had been in business for about a year. He had opened up a business bank account. Like, that was it. And he was just doing business the right way with them. And he was just bringing in income. He would put some in for his personal, and then he would separate some for his business. And so he ended up just applying. He saw one of our live sessions where we were breaking down business lines of credit. I ran him through the same sequence that I ran you guys. He went out, applied, and lo and behold, he was able to secure himself $100,000 worth of a business line of credit. Now remember, with the business line of credit, that's scalable, meaning he can use that, he can tap into that, and if he wanted to, maybe send himself into the business account funds so that he can pull out, which is as good as cash, he would be able to. And in addition to that, it's not a term loan, which means with the term loan, once that term is up, that account gets closed and that's it. You have to apply for another loan. With the small business line of credit, he can essentially scale that account to infinity. Obviously, I'm sure there's going to be a limit, but what happens now is that it attracts something known as common credit, right? And common credit or comparable credit, depending on how you want to say it, common credit, comparable credit. That means that banks are going to see, okay, wait a minute, PNC just extended this person $100,000 in a business line of credit. We want to now compete for their business. And so now what he's done is he's made himself attractive to banks and lenders. But you guys do want to keep in mind there are bank rules. And so if you're running maybe a funding sequence, or if you're wondering, okay, which banks should I watch out for? The Bank of America has something called a 2-3-4 rule. They allow you to get 2 new cards every 2 months, 3 new cards every 12 months, and 4 new cards every 24 months. But they also have something called the 7-12 rule and the 3-12 rule. The 7 card rule or the 7-12 rule means that you're allowed to open up 7 new accounts in 4 months as long as you are a customer. Again, relationships, a customer of Bank of America. If not, it shuts you down at 3. The next one is Chase. Chase is a really good place to build out relationships. They may not necessarily be the best when you're starting out to go in for a business line of credit, because you do have to be at least a year old in their ecosystem, but you can get immediate access to some of their 0% Business Inc. To their 0% Business Inc. card, which is going to allow you to enter their ecosystem. Now they do have a rule. I'm positive have already kind of like ingrained in you guys, right? This means that you cannot have more than 5 new accounts in the last 24 months, but there are some exceptions to this, right? Exception number 1 is that if you maybe are an authorized user on some of those accounts, or if maybe those accounts are mortgages, auto loans, or personal loans, then the 524 rule doesn't count toward you. But here's like the sidestep that I wanted to introduce to you guys. We've noticed that if you're going for business Chase cards, the 524 rule isn't necessarily as effective as it is for Chase Sapphire or Chase Freedom, which is on the personal side. Moving into Capital One, they allow 2 Capital One cards every 6 months. Now, I will ask you to be careful with Capital One, because the Capital One Spark card does report to both personal and business. So remember what we mentioned earlier. When you're getting approved for business lines of credit and business cards, that doesn't reflect over on your personal side. With the Spark card, it does. With the Discover Business card, it does. So whatever you have on one side, kind of like math in 5th grade, right? They carry it over on the other side, whether you are late or not. So I am going to rate this. If I'm honest with you guys, I'm going to rate the Capital One Spark card on the lower side. I wouldn't really waste too much time with them. Same thing with the Discover Business card. Barclays Bank has their 1 card every day rule that allows you to open up multiple new Barclays cards every 24 hours with the same hard inquiry. They're a little bit tougher because they're inquiry sensitive. And so if you guys are going to put them like at the top of maybe the funding sequence for yourself, you may want to put them a little bit at the top, because they're really sensitive to inquiries, kind of like Chase. Chase is also a little bit more sensitive. Bank of America is a little bit more sensitive. They're really monitoring your spending limits. So even if they're not going to be pulling your personal credit as much, they're at least going to kind of check to see how your spending limits are And then also they're checking your current accounts that are open. They're also wanting to see that you're not fishing too much for new accounts. American Express, which is where a lot of people want to get into, and rightfully so, right? Especially since American Express is now teamed up with Cabbage, which you can, I think, get up to, I think it's either $150,000 or $200,000 in a business line of credit with Cabbage, which is a fintech company, but they've American Express bought them out. And so if you are already in the American Express ecosystem, you can bypass a hard credit check and get yourself a business line of credit. Obviously, if your data points are on point, because you being in that American Express ecosystem, you're essentially able to tier your way up through their cards, both on the personal side and on the business side, without having to use any more hard inquiries. I think Dub was on our call on Tuesday. I know that I have the 5-card rule on here, which is usually like a good rule of thumb to keep in mind. I think Dub has at least 15 cards with American Express. Like, I'm not even kidding. I don't know if he showed you guys that. I think Dub Washington has at least 15 American Express cards, which absolutely blew my mind. Almost wrapping up, and we're closing out with this, which is really important. Top national banks, grade A banks that you guys should consider. I have American Express, Bank of America, Chase, Citibank, US Bank, and Wells Fargo. These are all of our grade A national banks. I wouldn't mess too much with Citibank on the business side. If you maybe are someone that doesn't carry too much interest, or really doesn't carry a balance rather, so you're not really paying an interest. But if maybe you're looking more for 0% funding, like we talked about earlier with unsecured business lines and credit cards, maybe Citi isn't necessarily the best for you, because they don't have any 0% products on their side for business. When it comes, I'm on there, and I know that I'm going to get a lot of heat for, bro, why do you have Wells Fargo on here? You're killing us. Or like, you're doing so well up to this point right here. And with these guys right here with Wells Fargo, I want you guys to use them as a magnet. This is the strategy for you guys. So if you're taking notes, watch this. Remember what we just talked about with comparable credit, which means banks, credit unions, and lenders are going to look at what's already on your profile. Okay, what does he or she already have on the profile that we can compete with or compete against, so that we can bring them into our ecosystem? And so the hedge and the strategy with Wells Fargo is that Wells Fargo has a really low barrier of entry for you to get a secured business loan, right? You can do it through your CD. So you open up a business CD, and it's low. You can start off with a low $500. But if I'm being honest with you guys, I wouldn't do anything less than 5K, right? So if you're going to do it, you want to do it right, because according to what you put there is what's going to attract the type of funding that you want. It's kind of like attracting a bad client. Like, sometimes it's better to say no to a bad client, because bad clients know bad clients. And so you're just going to fill your ecosystem up with clients that are just headaches. And so I want you guys to think of it the same way with Wells Fargo, right? And so 5, 10, if you guys have more, $15,000, $20,000, whatever it is, treat it the same way that you would the pledge loan play, right? With Navy Federal. Pay 90% of the balance off as soon as, excuse me, as soon as it comes in. You guys got me losing my voice. I'm getting excited. As soon as that balance comes in, so that when other banks see it, they're like, okay, let's go ahead and extend them a 15. Let's go ahead and extend them a 15K limit, 20K limit, 30K limit, because this is what they already have reporting on the business side. The key to this is that when it reports over to your Equifax, to your Experian, to your Dun & Bradstreet, wherever it reports, it's not going to report like it's a secured card or a secured loan. It's just going to report that it is a business loan, which is really cool. Moving into credit unions and regional banks. If you're taking screenshots, I call this kind of like the Holy Grail. Excuse me. I call this kind of like the Holy Grail of credit unions and regional banks, especially if you're starting out, if you're wondering where you should kind of invest your relationships into. I have KeyBank, I have PNC Bank. Obviously, my clients are absolutely killing it with them. I added Fulton on there. Now, keep in mind, you may have to look at your region. Some of these banks may not be in your region. I have Fulton. I believe Fulton is up in Jersey. Penn Fed is for the most part, I think, all across the East Coast. Navy Fed, you guys already know. House of High Limits, one of the biggest, or if not the biggest credit union in the country. We have SunTrust Bank, and BB&T, which is now Truist. Now, with these credit unions right here, I don't want you to just stay stuck, even though this is like a gold mine with these guys right here. I don't just want you guys to stay stuck with necessarily these type of credit unions or these type of banks, as much as I want you guys to use this as a framework of, okay, who in my area, which in my program we call unicorn credit unions, who in my area is a unicorn credit union that, and let's define that. Unicorn, let me put some context around that for you guys. Unicorn credit union means that there's no more than 3. If there's more than 3 credit unions of that same, that it's not a unicorn, right? It has to be something specific to maybe your area, maybe your region. The reason for that is because you're not going to be competing with the whales. You're not going to be competing with the big hedge funds. You're not going to be competing with the bigger business owners. You're only going to be competing with the smaller pool of lending that's done in your specific area, your zip code, your demographic, which means they're more likely to want to lend you money and do business with you because you are their customer versus a bigger bank. And so as you guys are going through their website, as you guys are going through some of the products, just think to yourselves, okay, Irv said, take a look at maybe some credit unions that are maybe less than 3 in my area that are unicorn. And so one of the fastest ways that you guys can do that, I'm sure when you're driving around and you're commuting, you look and you're like, who the heck is, I've never heard of that bank in my life. Who the heck is that credit union? And here's the game changer. A lot of these banks and credit unions don't even bother to update their websites. Their websites are usually, they look like they were built in the 90s, right? The reason for that is because they focus on relationships, meaning they want you to walk in. You want to walk in, you want to grab the brochure, you want to shake the hand of the relationship manager, you want to know who the banker is. So that way, when you're ready to pull the trigger, you're maximizing the funding that you get. Now, I'm going to give you guys a bonus funding play. I know that for sure because he covered something similar to this on his channel. And so I wanted to bring it to your attention because it is one that one of our clients ran recently and they knocked it out of the park. I believe they got 110 on their side on the business line of credit, which is absolutely powerful. They are going to pull from Equifax. You are able to double dip. The cool thing with them is that you're able to see, kind of like what you are approved for off the soft pull. And then your double dip, meaning you're able to get both the business unsecured line, credit card, and you're also able to get up to $250,000 in a business line of credit or a loan. I would consider this more of a kind of like a semi full doc, low doc, definitely not a no doc, because if you see they're asking for your bank statements. So if it was a no doc, they wouldn't ask for bank statements at all. So this is more of a low doc where they're going to ask for at least 3 months of bank statements. I have been seeing data points where they are asking for more. And if you're wondering, with your Equifax, if your Equifax is at least at a 380, you should be good to go on the business side. If it's on the personal side, nothing less than 700, at least from what we've been seeing. Maybe it's a little bit different in your region. You can usually get funded within 2-3 days after approval, which has been pretty cool. And if you're wondering, which account was that the client applied for, they let me know that they applied for the line of credit because they needed working capital. So it was similar to Alan, who applied for the line of credit with PNC. That's a business line of credit. Again, these are some of the results we're getting inside of the program. And it's pretty much what I just finished laying out for you guys. So if you ask me, we're going to say Q&A, but if you ask me, Irv, what were your clients doing? Just literally go back and catch the replay.
So there you have it. Again, if you are a small business owner and you're looking for a predictable and sustainable way to get access to business capital, let's see if we're a good fit. Book a call down below. It is pinned as the first comment. See you on the inside.